Try something for the next 10 seconds. Do not think about the last time you lost your temper. Don't picture it. Don't remember what you said. Did it work? For almost everyone, the answer is no, and the harder you tried, the more vivid it got. Carl Jung had an explanation for this, decades before anyone tested it in a lab. The things we refuse to look at in ourselves don't disappear. They just stop being visible to us while staying very much in control. Jung called this the shadow, the parts of yourself you've pushed out of conscious awareness because they're inconvenient, shameful, or simply don't fit the person you've decided to be. Anger you weren't allowed to express as a child, selfishness that got punished out of you, desires that didn't match what your family or culture expected. None of this material disappears when it's rejected. It goes somewhere into the shadow, in Jung's term, and from there it doesn't just sit quietly. It leaks into behavior sideways, in who irritates you far more than the situation warrants, in the traits you criticize most sharply in other people, in patterns you swear you'll never repeat and then somehow do anyway. Jung put it directly: everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in a person's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Here's the part that explains why simply trying harder to suppress a trait usually makes things worse, not better. In 1987, psychologist Daniel Wegner ran an experiment that had nothing to do with Jung or psychoanalysis or shadows at all. He asked people to sit for 5 minutes and try not to think about a white bear. Nothing more sinister than that. Every time the thought of a white bear crossed their mind anyway, they rang a bell. The bell rang constantly, on average more than once a minute, for a thought people were actively, deliberately trying not to have. Wegner called this the ironic process. The mental effort spent suppressing a thought requires part of the mind to keep checking whether the thought is still suppressed, and that checking process itself keeps surfacing, the very thought it's meant to bury. This is Jung's shadow, confirmed independently 60 years later in a controlled lab setting with nothing more dramatic than a white bear and a bell. What you actively refuse to look at doesn't get quieter. The act of suppression itself keeps it active, just out of view, which is precisely why Jung argued the shadow doesn't shrink through denial, it only grows denser. Jung's clinical observation, later expanded by analytical psychologists, points to a few recognizable ways the shadow surfaces without being recognized for what it is. Projection. The trait that irritates you most intensely in someone else is often a trait you've refused to acknowledge in yourself. Repetition. A pattern you consciously reject, a relationship dynamic, a way of losing your temper, a habit you swore off, that keeps recurring despite genuine, sincere effort to stop it. Sudden intrusion. The Wegner effect in daily life, a suppressed impulse or thought that surfaces at the worst possible moment, precisely because it was being monitored and suppressed rather than acknowledged. The Victorian era ran an entire culture on shadow suppression at scale. Rigid public propriety demanded the near-total denial of anger, sexuality, and selfishness, especially among the upper classes. Historians have long noted the private diaries and correspondence of the period reveal a private self starkly different from the public persona, precisely the split Jung would later formalize as persona and shadow. The modern echo doesn't require Victorian propriety. Anonymous online behavior functions as a pressure valve for shadow material in exactly the way Jung's framework predicts. People who are otherwise mild, conflict-avoidant, and carefully controlled in daily life sometimes produce startling cruelty behind anonymity, precisely because the shadow has no legitimate outlet anywhere else. Jung's proposed answer was never to eliminate the shadow. He considered that neither possible nor desirable, since some of what's repressed is simply raw vitality and instinct that could be redirected rather than destroyed. His answer was integration, consciously acknowledging shadow material exists, rather than either acting it out unconsciously or exhausting yourself suppressing it. In practice, this looks like noticing your own disproportionate reactions to other people as information, not just as their fault, asking what a strong dislike might be reflecting back. It looks like treating a recurring pattern you can't seem to stop as a signal to investigate, rather than a moral failing to punish yourself over. And it looks quite simply like admitting certain thoughts and impulses exist in you without immediately needing to act on them or bury them, since Wegner's research suggests the burying is often what gives them their force in the first place. Maybe the goal was never to defeat your own shadow. Maybe it's simply to stop being surprised by it, to recognize it as a part of you that was never actually gone, just unacknowledged. If this resonated, our earlier video on the persona explores the other half of this same idea, the mask you present outward, and what it costs to forget it's a mask at all. If this made you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for the next one. Every answer has a deeper reason,